Kol HaKavod to the authors who made this such a remarkable year in Jewish literature, and let's also remember the editors, illustrators, and designers, all of whom helped bring their work before us. I'm delighted to be here to help celebrate with you. Have a marvelous evening.
Hi, I'm Mike, husband of Anne Blankman.
And I'm Kirsten, Anne Blankman's daughter.
And we'd like to congratulate you on winning the National Jewish Book Award.
We're really proud of you.
Love you.
Love you too.
Hello, I'm the mother of Sarah Ben-Or. I'd like to congratulate her and all the other winners. When she was in elementary school, we many a night had to read her the dictionary as her bedtime story.
Hello, I'm David Ben-Or, Sarah Ben-Or's father. When I was 10 years old at Camp Ramah in Ojai, California, I had Hebrew classes, and I remember thinking, wouldn't it be nice if someday I had a child who grew up to write an award-winning book about my experience here? So congratulations to Sarah and her co-authors.
Cultural enrichment has been especially important this year, and the Jewish Book Council in particular has been terrific. On behalf of the Weinflash, Kronstadt, and Kopelman families, we congratulate all of the 2020 winners.
Congratulations, Ariana Neumann, for this very important award, and thanks for allowing me to accompany you in tracing back and discovering your family. Your narrative gave them back the life that was so abruptly taken from them and allowed us all to share in it. May this be a reminder of what should never be allowed to happen again.
Congratulations, Colin McCann, on your National Jewish Book Award. You are such an incredible co-founder, friend, colleague, and I am so happy for you and Paragon. Well deserved. Congratulations from all of us at Narrative 4 and beyond.
Good evening. My name is Joy Greenberg, and I'm the Vice President of the Board of Jewish Book Council and a panel judge for the National Jewish Book Awards. I want to congratulate all the winning authors who are highlighted in tonight's program, and a special shout out to Naomi Firestone Teeter and her staff at Jewish Book Council for every day working tirelessly to support Jewish authors and Jewish literature. Have a good evening. Good night.
Congratulations on your National Jewish Book Award. We love you.
We love you.
To all the authors of Hebrew Infusion,
we wish you Mazel Tov on your well-deserved award.
Kol HaKavod.
Kol HaKavod.
When first I read this book, Nautilus and Bone Poems by Lisa Richter, my daughter, I gasped. The work's so fine, I knew it was bound on an incredible journey, and here it is, winner of the National Jewish Book Award for Poetry. We are so proud. We congratulate you. We love you. So deserved.
Congratulations on your award for Nautilus and Bone.
Good evening. My name is Elizabeth Harding, and I've been lucky enough to represent Leslie Newman's literary work for more than 20 years. I'd like to add my congratulations to all the winners and honorees of the 2020 National Jewish Book Awards, but especially to Leslia for winning in the Children's Picture Book category for her heartwarming book, Welcoming Elijah, with gorgeous illustrations by Susan Gall. Leslia, you always make room at the table for those on the outside. Mazel tov.
Mazal Tov, Ima. Your book is a significant contribution to the craft of history. We know how hard you worked, and we are so proud that you have been recognized in telling Lucy's story to the world.
We love you.
I think it's time to read my favorite story. Rabbinic literature is replete with concerns about time and the triangular relationship between the people, God, and the hour. Is it time? It's time! Mazel Tov, Mama!
Congratulations to my husband
and my daddy,
Max Gross, on his National Jewish Book Award for The Lost Shtetl. We're so proud of you. You deserve this so much. We love you so much, and we can't wait to celebrate this wonderful achievement with you. We love you.
Bye.
Hi, Rachel. We're all so proud of you, not just for this award, but for the beautiful book that you
wrote and shared with the world. Love you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Lenore Weitzman, Vice President of the Jewish Book Council, and your final greeter before we start the program tonight. So I hope you will join me in a toast as we celebrate the amazing authors. Mazal Tov, Kol HaKavod Lechulam, and of course, L'chaim.
Welcome to the 70th Annual National Jewish Book Awards. I'm Jane Weitzman, President of the Jewish Book Council. It is an honor to be with you tonight when we recognize our winners from 2020. As all of you know, books have been more important during the past year than ever, making tonight's program all the more meaningful. Under the most challenging circumstances, the authors we will honor this evening have managed to connect with readers all over the world. We're proud to recognize their achievements. I want to thank Naomi Firestone Teeter, our exceptional executive director, and her very dedicated staff. They all worked so hard to make this evening special. To Evie, Becca, Carol, Eliza, Miri, Simona, and Suzanne, I am grateful to all of you for your incredible efforts and dedication. All of this work would not have been possible without the Jewish Book Council's remarkable board of directors. They play a vital role in their continued support and guidance of the organization. Thank you all for your generosity. I would also like to thank all of you in our audience who have supported us by becoming members. And for those of you we're meeting for the very first time, we hope that you will consider becoming a member to ensure that the Jewish Book Council continues to enrich, educate, and strengthen our community through books. And now I would like to introduce our outstanding executive director, Naomi Firestone Teeter.
Thank you so much, Jane, for your incredible efforts on behalf of Jewish Book Council. Our organization and authors and readers alike are so lucky to have you as a champion. My gratitude to you is endless. Tonight we celebrate our 70th year of awarding the National Jewish Book Awards. And while I can't imagine that our founders could have ever dreamed that we would be celebrating virtually, coming together from all over the world to celebrate the power of the written word from our individual homes, I think they would be proud. Proud that their vision has continued into the 21st century, proud that we are now awarding prizes in over 20 categories, and proud that Jewish literature is thriving, serving as a critical access point for understanding Jewish life, identity, culture, and history for so many. This past year has brought incredible challenges, but with each one, there have been authors and books to guide us, to provide entertainment, to be a source of inspiration and comfort, but also to push us out of our comfort zone and provide new ways to think about ourselves and the world in which we live. Books have been essential. At Jewish Book Council, we arranged over 1,300 literary events for our partners, provided book club discussion questions, reviews, and essays to hundreds of thousands of readers, published our literary journal, Paper Brigade, and hosted nearly 40 virtual public programs. And this evening, we're thrilled to recognize the literary achievements of our 2020 National Jewish Book Award winners. This work would not have been possible without JBC's incredible board of directors who gave guidance and support at every turn, both expected and unexpected, and without JBC's remarkable staff, whose thoughtful approach to every book, to every author, and every program make Jewish Book Council what it is today. I continue to be in awe of all of you and your commitment to ensuring that a wide range of Jewish books and ideas make their way into readers' homes. Finally, thank you to our 2020 National Jewish Book Award judges, who spent so much time carefully considering hundreds of submissions. While it's a rich and rewarding process, we also know it can be challenging, and we're grateful for the important work you put into determining the literary honors we celebrate tonight. And now for a few housekeeping notes before the program begins. Before each of our winners speak, they will be introduced by a member of Jewish Book Council's Board of Directors. When we announce a winner, we will add a link into the chat to their books page on Jewish Book Council's website, which will include the judges' full remarks, as well as options to purchase the winning title. If you have any words of congratulations for our winners, please feel free to use the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen. In addition, closed captions for this program are available by pressing that feature at the bottom of your screen. And with that, I hope you enjoy the 70th National Jewish Book Awards.
Hello, I'm Carol Levin, Vice President of the Jewish Book Council. Taking home tonight's celebrated 350th American Jewish Studies Award is Laura Arnold Liebman for her brilliantly researched The Art of the Jewish Family, a history of women in early New York in 5 objects. Her book takes us on an incredible journey between 1750 and 1850, using objects to reconstruct the lives of 5 Jewish women who were their original owners. She shines a light on the diversity of early American Jews, Sephardic and Ashkenazic, rich and poor, enslaved and slaveholders. To quote our judges, Laura's path-breaking volume commands the attention be paid to material culture and future Jewish writing of American Jewish history. Mazel tov to Laura on this incredible achievement.
Thank you so much. I am so deeply honored and humbled by being recognized by the Jewish Book Council and the support that you've given for my work and for everybody that's here tonight. That your readership just matters so much to us as authors to know that somebody's out there and that you care, particularly right now when all of us are so isolated. The Art of the Jewish Family was really born out of a huge question for me, which was what happened to all the wealth of information about the daily lives of women in early America? The book's set in New York, back before New York was the center of American Jewish life, when it was just some Jewish town. And I really wanted to get at the wealth and variety of ways that women's lives mattered, that it wasn't just wealthy women who could afford to have time to write, who were part of our history. And for me right now, the more that I think about the hardships of this past year, the more I hope that going forward, we'll continue to have those sorts of diverse visions of what Jewish communal life can be and whose voices contribute to the wealth of Jewish society. Thank you so, so much.
It reads like a novel or a detective story, but tonight's winner of the Krauss Family Award for Autobiography and Memoir in memory of Simon and Shulamith Goldberg is neither. It is Ariana Neumann's extraordinary chronicle of her years searching for the hidden history of her remarkable father and those closest to him. In When Time Stopped, a memoir of my father's war and what remains, she has written a brilliant, evocative, and loving tribute to the people whose tragedies and triumphs she painstakingly uncovered. Congratulations, Ariana. We are proud to honor you.
Thank you very, very much. I have to confess that I'm here under false pretenses. You see, this book is really not a memoir at all. It's not about me. It's not about my life. And I had a big fight about this with my Scribner editor. I'm actually just a storyteller. It's really about my father, who couldn't tell me his story of survival, his thrilling tale of duping the Nazis by choosing to go and hide in plain sight in Berlin. It's really about my beloved grandparents, the grandparents that I didn't know, that I never met, but that I actually now carry in my heart. It's about my grandfather Otto singing very badly and very loudly, and my grandmother laughing in the concentration camp of Theresienstadt, despite every cruel attempt to dehumanize them. So this book is Also about many others who couldn't share their stories themselves because they were either too traumatized or they were simply silenced when their lives were cut short. So I'm profoundly grateful and just, I cannot believe I'm here tonight, and I'm so humbled. But I want you to know that it's really all about them. It's for the stories of those 6 million people for whom time really stopped. Among them, 25 members of my own family. So Otto and Ella and Rudolf and Jenny and Carol and Joseph and Hilda and Oscar and Jolana and Moritz and Arno and Otta and Hermine and Arnost and Hannah and Richard and Hugo and Marta and Julius and Emma and Rudolf and Josefa and Vera and Milan and Eva. This book really is their stories. I hope it gives them a little bit more life. This honor is all about them. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Dr. Alan Kadish, Treasurer of the Jewish Book Council and Judge for the National Jewish Book Awards. Tonight, we are so pleased to present the Biography Award in memory of Sarah Berenson Stone, good friends of the Stone family, to Nancy Sinkoff for her work From Left to Right, Lucy S. Davidowitz, The New York Intellectuals, and the Politics of Jewish History. This exceptional biography chronicles the life of Lucy Davidowitz, a leading Jewish intellectual and a pioneer historian in today's field of Holocaust studies. As our judges describe, in this captivating book, Sinkoff takes readers along Davidowitz's transformation from a young communist to a champion of political neoconservatism, and in some ways, one of the founders of the neocon movement. Thank you, Nancy, for offering us a window into important events and issues of 20th century Jewish life and a remarkable woman. Mazel tov.
Thank you so much. You kind of said it all. This book chose me. I'm a scholar of modern East European Jewish history, specifically of Poland, and I've always been interested in how Jewish intellectuals have encountered the modern world, a process which still continues today. My first book treated the life, times, and ideas of an enlightened Polish Jew at the cusp of modernity and during the partitions of Poland. Lucy S. Davidowitz became the perfect vehicle through which I could ask the questions about that encounter in the largest East European Jewish community outside of non-communist Europe in the 20th century. She addressed many of the same questions about how to make Jews modern and how to keep East European Jews Jewish as they acculturated, migrated, and integrated. The book is a biography because it treats a life, but it uses her life to get at the issues of her time. I didn't argue with my editors, but you'll notice that the term biography is not in the title. In Dawidowicz's case, her times were momentous. New York Jewish immigrant life, pre-war Poland, the harrowing unfolding of the news of the Holocaust, the ruins of the post-war years, the restitution of Jewish cultural treasures, post-war America and the cultural Cold War, the ruptures and challenges of the social movements of the late 60s, the emergence of neoconservatism. Although she was primarily known as an historian of the Holocaust, I wanted to put Davidowitz, a woman, an East European Jewish woman, back into the history on American Jewish intellectual, political, and cultural life, back into the conversation of who and what was a New York intellectual. And I insisted on what we historians call la longue durée, the long past. My book connects pre-war Europe, Poland specifically, to post-war America. As she did, it engages with a global, transnational Jewish world, which underscores the diaspora nationalism of her worldview. The Jews, she believed, were a people, and her work, all of her work, sought to remind her readers of the legitimacy of Jewish group identity in the modern, pluralistic, multicultural world. I am honored. I congratulate my fellow winners. Thank you so very much.
I'm Debbie Miller. And when I was a little girl, aside from going out to play, my favorite thing was to have my mother read to me. I could listen for hours. So when our family established the book club award, it was a given that it would be in memory of my mother, Helen Weinstein, and my mother-in-law, June Miller. Both of them were avid readers, and I am sure they would be so proud to be recognized. This year in particular, having a good and transportive book to read made such a difference, which is why I am pleased to present this year's award to Max Gross and his brilliant novel, The Lost Shtetl. Max Gross gave us two things: a magical escape from our real world and a laugh out loud experience. It is an honor and a privilege to award him the Book Club Award. Mazel tov, Max.
Thank you so much, Debbie. Before I say anything else, I just want to say how profoundly grateful I am to the Jewish Book Council, to Debbie and the Miller family for sponsoring the Book Club Award, to my wife and son who left an apple in my throat a few minutes ago with their video, and to everyone watching tonight. One of the questions I've been asked since writing The Lost Shtetl is, do I consider myself a Jewish writer? I've come to the conclusion that for nearly any Jewish person who makes their living putting pen to paper, it's an inescapable question. Currently, I'm reading Blake Bailey's biography of Philip Roth, who did not consider himself a Jewish writer. He considered himself just a writer. And yet, Roth eternally kept coming back to one subject that haunted him, mystified him, and inspired him, and that was the Jews. I'm not a terribly observant person, but very early in my life, I began to share Roth's obsession, and I've often wondered why. And I think there's a reason that there are so many Jewish writers in the world. I think we've been seduced by a good story. More than 2,000 years ago, the Jews were hurtled out of their homeland, orphaned and unwanted, and yet they saw an endless, sprawling world where everything was possible. They planted their seed in Asia, in Africa, in Europe, and in the New World. And the Jews constantly felt a contradictory set of emotions: a desire to immigrate, to assimilate, to master their new surroundings, and a profound longing for homeland, tradition, and religion. By the rivers of Babylon, a great Jewish poet wrote some 600 years before the Common Era, there we sat and wept as we thought of Zion. The fruit of this has been both tragedy and uplift. The Talmudic educated mind has trained itself on physics and mathematics and law and literature and come away with unimaginable glory. However, the Jews have also suffered tragedies no one could have ever imagined before. And it was the weight of this history, this loyalty to old dreams, this compulsion to return to the past, but at the same time to embrace the future, that I was thinking about when I wrote my book, The Lost Shtetl. Yes, I regard myself as a Jewish writer. I imagine that every writer here will answer that question differently. Some are not Jewish at all, but everyone here has also recognized they have seen in the story of the Jews, and I believe this is the mission of the Jewish Book Council, a great saga with so much to say about mankind as a whole. And I regard myself as extremely privileged to share the stage tonight with all my fellow authors and with all of you. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Tracy Brown, and on behalf of the Jewish Book Council, I am pleased to present the Children's Picture Book Award to Leslie Newman, writer, and Susan Gall, illustrator, for their book Welcoming Elijah, A Passover Tale with a Tale. Leslie Newman, winner of a National Jewish Book Award for 2 consecutive years, has crafted a simple and poetic story about a boy and a kitten and the ritual of opening the door for Elijah. The text is complemented with Susan's lush and large illustrations that bring family Passover traditions to life. We are so proud to celebrate both of you this evening for your sweet and beautiful children's tale. Thank you.
Welcoming Elijah, A Passover Tale with a Tale, was written out of love. Love for Passover, my favorite holiday, and love for cats, my favorite animal. The book was inspired by my cat, Princess Sheba Darling, who was found on the street, just like the kitten in Welcoming Elijah, and lived to be 21 years old. The heart of the book is the heart of Passover, that all who are hungry come and eat. The book begins, inside there was light, outside there was darkness. Inside the boy waited for the Seder to start. Outside the kitten waited for the moon to rise. It goes on. Inside the boy ate the festive Passover meal. Outside the kitten ate nothing at all. And the book ends with the boy opening the door for Elijah and finding the kitten, whom he welcomes into his home. For as it is written, you too must befriend the stranger, for you were strangers in the land of Egypt. Thank you, Jewish Book Council, for this great honor.
The first time I read Leslie's manuscript, I knew it was special and was eager to bring it to life. Both of us wanted to reflect diverse and inclusive families in the illustrations. To create the artwork, I recalled my memories of family gatherings and sharing our beloved traditions. I did my best to render my drawings with joy and affection, and I'm so pleased that it has resonated with readers. This past year, we've all suffered the pain of being separated from those we love. It is my hope that our book offers the good stuff of life: love, acceptance, family, tradition, and the simple joy of being together. I'm very grateful to be recognized from the Jewish Book Council. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Lenore Weitzman. Sorry, I have a glitch. I'm a vice president of the Jewish Book Council, and it is a great pleasure to present Professor and Rector Arthur with the Meyercroft Book Award for Contemporary Jewish Life and Practice for his profound and beautiful book, Judaism for the World, Reflections on God, Life, and Love. In a year like the past one, it is especially meaningful to award this prize to a book that our judges saw as the perfect anecdote for anyone feeling a loss of inspiration, whether your interest is in Jewish theology or the Jewish holidays, or how to live a meaningful life as a Jew today in the real world that surrounds us. Arthur Green has written a book that will speak to you. Thank you, Arthur Green, for using your experience and your wisdom and for your innovative but also timeless volume. It is a vital resource for the entire Jewish community. Mazal tov.
Thank you, thank you. Wonderful to be here. Mazal tov to everybody. This book is part of a project. I've been working on a single project, for the past 60 years. So I think I'll take this bit of time to tell you about the project. The book is in some ways the culmination of it, but only it's this week's culmination because I'm busy at work on a couple of others. The project is creating a Hasidism that's appropriate for the late 20th and early 21st century Jew. That means a mystical piety, a deeply spiritual and personal approach to the tradition, inspired by the Hasidism of the Baal Shem Tov, but not the same thing by any means. We need to create a Jewish mysticism for the 21st century, a time when we're just trying to recollect that tradition, which was intentionally discarded 200 years ago, but an approach that's intellectually honest. There's too much dishonesty in theology and religion these days, and is also deeply and personally moving. It requires theology, it requires praxis, it requires an attitude toward the Jewish people, the Jewish community, the state of Israel, and everything else. A new Hasidism has been created twice before, in the 1920s by Martin Buber and Hillel Zeitlin, in the 1960s by Zalman Schachter and Shlomo Carlebach. This is a different age, and what needs to be created today is of a different order. So I'm busily involved in that project, as I say, I have been for a long time. I'm now working on a commentary to the prayer book and a series of teachings on the Torah, and all of that will be a part of this project, of which Judaism for the World is very much a part. Yale published my book, Radical Judaism, 10 years ago, and Judaism for the World is the next step. It was a rethinking of radical Judaism and where I've come in this decade. I just celebrated my 80th birthday in the past few weeks, and so you might say Judaism for the World is the thought of my 70s. Now we're waiting for the 80s. This means that the change I've made in life, I was trained to be a scholar. I was trained to be a student of the Jewish past and teach about and write about great Jewish thinkers of the past. Sometime in the 70s, I looked at my undergraduate students at the University of Pennsylvania and said, who's going to read these books? Will there be a Jewish future? Will anybody care anymore? And that created a great shift, a shift in which I started writing books that were aim to creating that Jewish future rather than just studying and celebrating the past. So I continue to do that, and with God's help, I hope to be around for a while longer and continuing to unfold this project step by step. I thank you so much for this award. It's a great honor and a delight to be here with all of you this evening. Erev Tov. Kodesh Tov.
The Goldberg Debut Fiction Prize is highly anticipated and often life-changing for its winning author. Tonight, I'm pleased to present the award to Rachel Beanland for her unforgettable novel, Florence Adler Swims Forever. Well-researched with compelling characters, Rachel delivers fine Jewish storytelling about the ties that bind a family through love, loss, and betrayal, and most important, determined endurance through it all. Congratulations, Rachel, on this important award.
Thank you so much, Joy, and thank you to the Jewish Book Council. I've been familiar with the JBC for years, but it took publishing a book to understand just how much you do for Jewish authors and Jewish books. Florence Adler Swims Forever has benefited at every step of the way from the organization's devotion to the support and celebration of Jewish literature. Florence Adler Swims Forever is set in 1934 Atlantic City and is about a 20-year-old swimmer named Florence who drowns while training to swim the English Channel. Her sister Fanny is in the hospital on bed rest, and the family makes the decision not to tell her that Florence has died, at least until she has delivered a healthy baby. Because the novel is based on a true story that happened in my own family, it never occurred to me to write anything other than a Jewish family. It wasn't until I had come to the last page, however, that I realized how pivotal the Adler family's Judaism was to both their decision to shelter their remaining daughter from an impossible truth and to the ways in which they grappled with their grief. Many thanks to everyone at Simon & Schuster and Janko and Nesbitt. It's hard to imagine where I'd be without my lovely editor and agent. To my mother, my husband, and my kids, I want to thank you, and particularly to my grandmother, on whom the character Gussie was based. I hope that somewhere, somehow, she can see that her story has found a place in people's hearts.
Good evening. I'm so pleased to present the Jewish Education and Identity Award in memory of Dorothy Kripke to Sarah Bunin-Benor, Jonathan Krasner, and Sharon Avni, the authors of Hebrew Infusion, Language and Community at American Jewish Summer Camps. The role that Hebrew adds to the residential summer camp experience is the focus of this thought-provoking work. The authors trace the use of Hebrew in the Reform camping movement at Masad Poconos Camp and the Ramah movement, exploring the influence of language, history, and education on the American Jewish experience. Our judges emphasize that Hebrew Infusion is an important read for students and scholars alike. Sarah, Jonathan, and Sharon, Mazel Tov.
Thank you so much, Andrea, and thank you to the Jewish Book Council. What a fun book project this was. My favorite part of the process was visiting 27 camps around the country and marveling at how vibrant Jewish life is. Also, it was interesting how Sharon, Jonathan, and I brought new angles to this important topic with our different disciplinary backgrounds. So how did we come together to write this book? Well, it started in 2012 when I visited a Ramah camp to research how institutions of different denominations speak Jewish English. I realized then that some camps were using Hebrew in interesting ways and that people had strong feelings about how Hebrew should be used. I started more intensive research for this book, visiting camps and interviewing leaders, and then I realized it was too big a project to do alone. So I invited Sharon and Jonathan to join the project.
I spent 18 summers at Jewish summer camp as a camper, a counselor, and a division head. I hammed it up in Hebrew musicals at Camp Masad, and I belted out Hebrew songs in the Camp Ramah Zimriah. And as the historian of the group, it was fascinating for me to go back to a time when camps were ideologies, settings where young people could live out their Jewish political and religious commitments. Camps were also vehicles for building a vibrant and joyful Jewish life in the diaspora in the wake of the Holocaust. And they were a way for a newly suburban, newly middle-class Jewish kid to connect with something larger than themselves, something that was more meaningful and inspiring than the culture of consumption and the Cold War angst that they were growing up in.
I'm also a product of Jewish camping and spent most of my summers at Young Judea camps as a camper and as a staff member. This book was an amazing opportunity to go back to a context that profoundly shaped my own life. It was a thrill to bring my knowledge as a linguist, as an educator, to understanding the camp experience, and as a result of working on this book, to gain a new appreciation, both professionally and personally, about the role of camping in American Jewish life. We're so honored to receive this award. We'd like to thank the Jewish Book Council. We want to thank all the camps that we learned so much from. And I personally want to thank Sarah and Jonathan for the really special opportunity it was to work with you. And we hope you'll enjoy reading. Everyone will enjoy reading this book as much as we enjoyed writing it. Thank you so much.
Gobsmacked. That's how one online reviewer described her reaction to Paragon, the 2020 winner of the J.J. Greenberg Memorial Award for Fiction by Colum McCann. She was, as I was, as were members of our panel, overwhelmed with wonder, astonishment at the novel's brilliance. Based on the real-life friendship between Palestinian Bassam Aramin, whose daughter Abir was shot in the head by an Israeli soldier in 2007, and Israeli Rami Elchanan, whose daughter Smadar was killed in a suicide bombing in 1997. The novel, named after an infinitely sided polygon, explores the Israel-Palestinian conflict in all facets. I often read a novel only once. This is surely a yearly read. Congratulations to you, Colum, on this win.
Thank you so much. I am gobsmacked. I'm completely gobsmacked in the best possible way. I'm humbled by this. I'm honored by this, surprised in the best way, and grateful to so many people, grateful to everyone at the council, grateful to everyone at the Parents Circle, grateful to everyone at Narrative 4, grateful to my family and my friends, but most of all, I gotta say that I'm grateful to Rami Elchanan and Bassam Aramin for giving me access to their hearts, their heads, their stories, and allowing me to talk about the story of their daughters, Abir and Smadar. And they keep their daughters alive by telling their stories, because that's what storytelling can do. Death can take away a lot of things, but it cannot take away our stories or our sense of storytelling and the power of storytelling across cultures, across oceans, across boundaries, across stereotypes. The job of literature, then, as we see tonight, is to sometimes confront the heartbreak of the world. But in confronting the heartbreak of the world, then we also find the joy of the world and the repair of the world. I am so happy to be amongst this crew of writers. And it is our job to continue telling the stories and to knock us out of our ruts of conventional experience. And I am deeply, deeply, deeply grateful to the council for allowing me a chance to speak to the stories of Bassam and Rami. And I will finish with a quote from the Mu'allaqat, which says, "Is there any hope that this desolation can bring us solace?" And yes, there is hope, and it comes through literature and it comes through storytelling. Thank you.
It is a great honor to introduce this year's winner of the Jane and Stuart Weitzman Family Award for Food Writing and Cookbooks. Now for something sweet. This beautifully written and authored book by the Monday Morning Cooking Club of Sydney, Australia. The book is a delight to read, and the recipes are richly steeped in the complex Jewish history of Australia. The photography and stories are so compelling that the book may need to migrate from one's kitchen to the coffee table. Our judges call it an ode to the long-standing tradition of the Jewish Sisterhood community cookbooks. And I am pleased to welcome the Monday Morning Cooking Club, joining us tonight all the way from Sydney. Congratulations to you all.
Thank you, Etta, and huge thanks to the Jewish Book Council for this most prestigious award. We are so excited. Our story. In 2006, we, a group of Jewish Sydney women, armed with cups of tea and this fierce love of heritage and community, got together with a wild dream to make a cookbook, a world-class cookbook, that would sit in Borders, remember that, alongside the very best in the world. And so Monday Morning Cooking Club was born. Over the next 15 years, we collected, tested and culled thousands of recipes from hundreds of Jewish homes. And so importantly, we collected the most heartwarming and poignant stories of family, friendship, community and survival. Most are Australian, part of a diverse cultural melting pot, but not all. We treasure our global contributors who took a punt and shared their heirloom recipes with a bunch of Aussie strangers. After publishing our third book, we realised that over the years of collecting, we received 3 or 4 sweet recipes for every savoury one. There is something about Jews and cake. We found ourselves dreaming of soft, airy chiffon cakes, thinking about chocolate-swirled babkas, imagining jammy strudels, frying syrup-drenched coiled feijoadas, and biting into hot sugared jam donuts. We were on a mission to find and share our favourite sweet must-have recipes and, of course, the beautiful stories that accompanied them. And so our 4th book was born. We're thrilled to find our books never leave people's kitchen countertops in both Jewish and non-Jewish homes. We've become a treasured resource for the very best of home cooking and hope we've painted a contemporary and positive picture of what it is to be Jewish in today's world. Thank you so much to the Jewish Book Council for loving our 4th baby as much as we do and giving us this award. We're sending you a huge Australian virtual hug. We feel so incredibly honoured, coming from a relatively tiny Jewish community here in Australia, to now be on the world stage with all of you. Mazel tov to all of you there, all you winners, and thank you again to the Jewish Book Council.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The Gerard and Ella Berman Memorial Award for History. We're proud to honor Laura Arnold Liebman with her 2nd prize of the evening for her work, The Art of the Jewish Family. In her collective biography, Liebman brings alive the stories of 5 early American women through day-to-day objects. She eloquently explores the worlds her subjects inhabited and the dynamic forces that shaped the shifting notions of what it means to be a Jewish woman in America. As our judges note, it's a measure of the author's gifts, both as a scholar and as a storyteller, that we come to know these women, their families, and the Jewish communities in which they lived with astonishing clarity and intimacy. Congratulations, Laura, on your 2nd win this evening.
Thank you so much. When my great aunt passed away, my grandmother let her great nieces and nephews, because my great aunt had no children, pick something from her kitchen and her serving dishes that would mean something and that would continue her legacy on in the family moving forward. And I remember choosing not something like my great grandfather's Kiddush cup, but actually choosing a cute little set of dishes that were her dairy dishes that had little dogs on them that were completely quirky and not Jewish. In The Art of the Jewish Family, I really wanted to change the way we thought about Jewish objects and to get away from the sort of Kiddush cup and synagogue-centered way of thinking about what Judaica is, and back to that sort of teacup way of thinking about how women were at the center of building family and building community. That sort of approach wouldn't have been possible if it weren't for 4 magnificent places in New York that had these precious objects. One is the Met that had 3 of the silver beautiful cups that I worked on. And the other wonderful place was the American Jewish Historical Society, which had 4 of the objects that appeared in 4 different chapters, where I was able to hold one of the miraculous little miniatures in my hands. This book would absolutely not have been possible were it not for 2 other places, Congregation Cherith Israel, that was home to almost every single woman in my book, as well as another place that is so near and dear to me on the Upper West Side, which is Bard Graduate Center, which is a center for material culture that put together this incredibly beautiful book and just such incredible attention. And incredible attention to how it looked and the various nuances and materiality of it. So I'm really grateful to Susan Weber, who created Bard Graduate Center, Peter Miller, who is the dean there, Daniel Lee for making a beautiful book, as well as the Leon Levy Foundation and David Berg Foundations that sponsored me while I was at Bard Graduate Center. I hope people will check out these places.
The Unanswered Letter by Ferris Cassel is the winner of the Holocaust Award in memory of Ernest W. Michel. The book opens with a frantic plea from Alfred Berger, Vienna 1939, for an affidavit to leave for America. By chance, this letter reaches Ferris Cassel in 2000. Challenged to know Alfred and Hedwig's fate, Cassel leaves no stone unturned in researching their lives and their extended, closely knit family. Based on letters, conversations with surviving family, and meticulous historical analysis, she brings the incomprehensible reality of the Shoah close. Destined to be a classic, this is also a work of justice. It honors the lives of the victims and also of Ernie Michel, who wanted the Shoah never to be forgotten. All honor to you, Ferris Cassel. Mazal Tov.
Thank you so much, Blue, for that kind introduction, and my deep gratitude for the Jewish Book Council and the Michel family, their and Michel family, keeping the stories, working to keep the stories alive. 1939, Alfred and Hedwig Berger, a Viennese Jewish couple, were terrified. Gunshots, snarling dogs, police whistles in the night had become the Bergers' reality. Their older daughter had fled Vienna, but was trapped in war-torn France. Their younger daughter had sailed to Palestine aboard a Greek pirate ship. Was she even safe? They didn't know. Alfred and Hedwig had tried everything themselves also to flee the Nazis with no success. And so, as the Nazi news tightened, Alfred wrote Strangers in America, pleading for immigration help. I beg you, he wrote, it is our last and only hope. My nonfiction book traces my decade-long quest to investigate the mystery behind that frantic letter. Some people believe there is nothing new to learn about the Holocaust, but the Holocaust remains a wound that has not healed, a canvas that continues to explore the meaning of good and evil. The day-to-day story of the Berger family's Holocaust experience reverberates with courage, with hope, and with chilling questions from the Holocaust for us today. I can't personally relate to the terror the Bergers experienced, but we continue to tell those Holocaust stories to ensure, as best we can, to honor those who suffered so much, and we can work to prevent it from ever happening anywhere again. So thank you again to the Jewish Book Council, and so especially to the Ernst Michel family.
In April 1986, the Chernobyl nuclear reactor exploded, setting the stage for Blackbird Girls, winner of the award for middle grade literature. It is a remarkable tale of resilience and human connection, which is at once a gripping story, a history lesson, and an exploration of the power of friendship. Anne Blackman proves herself a master storyteller, using 3 separate narrative perspectives set in 2 historical periods. She weaves a compelling story told against tragically similar backdrops of a repressive and anti-Semitic Soviet regime and a Europe under Nazi rule, and shows the power of relationship to overcome obstacles of status, privilege, and prejudice. Anne, your work is beautiful and timeless. We're proud to honor you tonight.
Thank you so much for this wonderful award. I am honored that the Jewish Book Council has chosen to recognize the Blackbird Girls. I have wanted to write this story for more than 20 years. When I was in 9th grade, I met a new classmate who has since become a lifelong friend. This girl, Victoria, had recently immigrated from Ukraine to my small hometown in upstate New York. As we became closer, she confided in me that she had survived Chernobyl, the horrific nuclear disaster in the Soviet Union in 1986. In order to keep her safe, Victoria's parents made the heartbreaking decision to send their then 6-year-old daughter thousands of miles away to live with distant relatives in Uzbekistan. The reason Victoria had family in far-off Uzbekistan actually has its answer rooted 45 years in the past, 45 years before 1986, back in 1941. In 1941, Victoria's family, many members of her family, along with scores of other Ukrainian Jews, fled from the approaching German army, and they wound up in some of the southern Soviet provinces. These two journeys, one to run from invading soldiers and the other to escape nuclear fallout, have haunted me, and they became the inspiration for the Blackbird Girls. I'm so grateful that my dear friend Victoria and her grandparents shared their experiences with me. And I'm also so grateful to the Jewish Book Council for supporting Jewish-themed literature. Thank you so much.
Hello, my name is Josh Rolnick. I'm a Jewish Book Council board member, and our next winner is this year's recipient of the Beru Award for Poetry in memory of Ruth and Bernie Weinflash. Lisa Richter's winning collection, Nautilus and Bone, takes as its inspiration the Yiddish language poet Anna Margolin, who dared to write a century ago about identity and alienation, gender fluidity, and desire. Our judges called Nautilus and Bone an exhilarating achievement that dares readers to live as fully as Margolin did. As Richter writes, I try my best to give a lyric voice to the most essential, enduring aspects of the poet's life. Her exuberant collection does exactly this, and in the process takes on a life of its own. Congratulations, Lisa, for winning our top poetry award.
Thank you so much to the Jewish Book Council for this incredible honor. I am humbled and grateful and overjoyed beyond words, especially to be in such brilliant and extraordinary company. I'm going to read a short excerpt from the first and opening titled poem in the collection entitled Jewess. Don't call me Jewess. Call me hellfire and fishhooks, the moon as it violets the earth in mollusk silver shadow, papered with yellowed envelopes and wheat. Call me pale skins stretched into backlit sails. Call me opium milk rose, a comet's saliva trail spittling the blue globe. Call me abacus. Call me the bespoke noose you wind in loops around your fingers, the tangerine light that shimmies through curtains as evening sidles in steady advance towards you, the burnished apple's high scarlet gloss, a windpipe's hollow moan. Call me newsreel, hollyhock, sundial, astrolabe, the peacock's shimmering cyanide blues and gangrene greens, the rusted latch from the outhouse door that claws open and warms to your calloused clasp. An iodine sunset swelling across the wound.
I am pleased to present tonight's Nachum M. Sarna Memorial Award for Scholarship to Sarit Katan Gribetz for her book, Time and Difference in Rabbinic Judaism. This extraordinarily innovative and well-researched book examined how the rabbis conceived of time and defined themselves and their surroundings through time-related distinctions. Having spent my life studying a lot of Jewish scholarship, I never paid proper attention to this subject, and Gribetz's work opens it up in whole new ways: Jewish versus Christian time, men's and women's time, divine versus human time. Dr. Gribetz, we are very, very proud to reward you for this utterly original, beautifully written book. Mazal Tov.
Thank you so much, Rabbi Telushkin. It's an incredible honor to receive this award in memory of Professor Nachum Sarna for my book. Here it is, which explores the rhythms of time that animated the rabbinic world of late antiquity. One of the rabbinic texts I discuss in my book details God's daily schedule. God spends 3 hours studying Torah, 3 hours judging the world, 3 hours feeding Earth's creatures, and in the final quarter of the day, 3 hours with Leviathan, laughing. This whimsical narrative is interrupted, though. What has happened, the Talmud asks, after the destruction of Jerusalem, when God, deep in mourning, swears off laughter? What does God do now? Publishing a book about the ways in which conceptions and organizations of time formed ancient Jewish identity in the midst of our own time of upheaval, with schedules upended and the future uncertain, has been a moving and humbling experience. Rabbinic texts about time reveal how ancient rabbis imagined the world in which they lived, and moreover, how they thought about how each person ought to live in that world hour by hour and day by day. And this is the lesson that I learned through writing this book, that the way in which we divide and use our time is not arbitrary. It reveals our deepest societal and individual values, because how we choose to organize and spend our time is ultimately a reflection of what we value. Thank you to the Jewish Book Council for this honor.
Good evening. I am Mimi Frank, member of the Board of Directors of the Jewish Book Council. Forging Ties, Forging Passports by Davy Mays is a scholarly, well-researched study of the migration of Sephardim from the Ottoman Empire to the Americas. As the winner of this year's Mimi S. Frank Award in Sephardic Culture in memory of Becky Levy, Dr. Mays gives the reader insights into the inherent difficulties, such as feelings of belonging as well as foreignness, in the creation of modern Sephardi diasporas. We thank Davy Mays for her contribution to Sephardic culture and wish her a prolific future on this subject. Congratulations, Davy.
Thank you so much, Mimi. I am very honored to be here amongst all of the winners of tonight's awards. And it's especially special for me to come after Sarit, because we were postdocs together at JTS years ago. So that's very meaningful. I became a historian because I am interested in people's stories. And as I came to this study of Sephardic Jews who lived at the very end of an empire and moved into a world where everything was confusing for them, where there was no set way of experiencing reality, and where they were not wanted in very many parts of the world. I saw this story of people who were very strong, who viewed themselves as part of a community, even though it stretched across seas, and who built a world for themselves to make place for themselves. I start the book out, and the reason it's called Forging Ties, Forging Passports has to do with a Sephardi man from Istanbul who was the youngest son of a Ladino newspaper editor. And over the course of his life, this man, Mauricio, moved from the Ottoman Empire to Mexico and then was a Mexican diplomat in Shanghai, in Paris under Nazi occupation, in Bordeaux, and in Lisbon. And in 1949, he wrote a letter back to his father's close friend, the famed Turkish historian Avram Galante, and said, I want to write a book called Forge Your Own Passport to prove the stupidity of passports, visas, nationalities, and races. And he ends this letter saying that certainly everyone engages in exploitation, but this does not mean that one should abstain from denouncing it. And so in looking at migrants and migration, I think it's so important to consider the humanity of the people involved. Thank you.
Congratulations to Laura Arnold Liebman for winning the Barbara Dobkin Award for Women's Studies. Laura, I loved your book. I even thought that the footnotes were fascinating. You are now the first person to ever win 3 National Jewish Book Awards for the same book in 1 year. I'm so excited for you and your incredible accomplishment. Mazal Tov and Kol HaKavod.
Thank you so much, Jane. I have to say, Jane, you're one of my big heroes, so it's such an honor to be introduced by you and by all the other amazing people who've introduced my book for tonight. One of my favorite objects that I talk about in the book is a commonplace book, a little red book owned by a woman named Sarah Ann Hayes Mordecai. And it was kind of the 19th century version of social media or Facebook. She would give it to people and they would write their favorite quotes in it and put their favorite little drawings in it. It was not something written by one single genius, but really was this collective enterprise. And for me, it took her almost 50 years to write it, and I identify with how long it takes to write a book. But for me, that moment of that commonplace book really speaks to the ways in which I think for all of us, our book writing ventures are really a collective enterprise. And I really both want to honor the women who were part of the original dialogues, Ellen Smith, Hasia Diner, Barbara Mann, but also all the amazing women in my writing groups without whom I never would have finished the book. And certainly during this horrible pandemic, the circles on social media, which some people dismiss as being mindless, whatever, jammies, you have been there for me. And I feel like we together lift each other up and make each other stronger. So thank you to all the Jewish women who helped make the book possible.
The JDC Herbert Katsky Award for writing based on archival material goes to Magda Tater for her book Blood Libel, On the Trail of an Anti-Semitic Myth. In Blood Libel, Magda Tater does more than trace the blood libel myth from its origin in England in the 1200s to centuries of written records in France, Italy, the Vatican, and Poland to explicit mention in the 21st century Poway, California shooting. This very readable, comprehensive study also shows how books from the first printed editions in the 15th century were used as tools to create a past that would influence the future, and how books were used as weapons, both to attack and to defend. Mazel Tov, Magda Tater.
Thank you so much. I am deeply moved and honored by the National Jewish Book Award. When I started this project, I did not plan to make it as geographically and chronologically expansive as it became. I planned to write about Poland and Italy and mostly in the 18th century. And we may not be here if I did. But instead, the sources took me on a long journey through 8th century, 8 countries, 10 languages, and many archives. Neither did I consider the contemporary relevance of my book, but it became painfully clear to me as I was finishing it, and certainly as the Poway synagogue shooting took place, that the book had contemporary relevance. The resurgence of anti-Semitism gave clarity to my argument. The blood libel, though medieval in origin, became truly rooted in European Christian imagination in the early modern period thanks to the printed media. As pre-modern books and pamphlets transmitted sensational stories, much like today's breaking news. And like today's breaking news, true or fake, they created a historical record, a footprint that has shaped social habits of thinking. My book shows how stereotypes are created, transmitted, and reinforced. Indeed, words, images, and the paper trail, or now also the media, social media trail, have tremendous consequences in history. The book also tells us that political leadership matters and that words and official statements matter, and that silences are heard too. So thank you so much for this honor and recognition.
Just delighted to introduce Gavriel Savit, who packs a lot of talent in one place. In addition to authoring award-winning novels, he's also an established actor and singer who has performed worldwide. Tonight, we're celebrating his 2020 National Jewish Book Award in the Young Adult Fiction category for the magnificent The Way Back. Here it is. Set in a classic Eastern European shtetl, the plucky young protagonists navigate dark powers, magical demons, their own flaws and fears, and eventually death itself. Just a great adventure story, modern yet more metaphoric, and drawing on classical Jewish and Yiddish motifs. The Way Back represents an engrossing journey and coming-of-age story. Gavriel?
Thank you very much. I am very grateful, very humbled by the honor that you do me with this award, but I'm afraid it doesn't belong to me. I'll explain. On January 4th, 2017, at the National Hospital of Iceland in central Reykjavik, my first child, a daughter, was stillborn. And when her body was born, I held it and I sang to her. I sang Tehillim Kaf Gimel, the 23rd Psalm, text which I only later realized contains the line, Gam ki alech begetz al mavet, lo ira ra ki ati imadi. Even when I pass through the shadow of death, I will not be afraid because you are with me. Before my daughter's body was buried, I spoke to her and I promised her that she would be known, that she would have an effect in the world, and that I would make sure of it. When I was back home and I had gathered enough strength to write, I was very surprised by the book that came out. I had expected to write about the darkness in which I found myself. But instead, I found myself writing a book about carrying light through the darkness. I expected to write a book about how death envelops us all in the end. But instead, I found myself writing about how the letters that we send in that envelope back and forth go on forever and ever, Leolam Bayed. Those thoughts and feelings and truths didn't come from me. They came from someone else. The story has a happy ending. I am now the proud father of two happy, healthy, beautiful, extraordinary young girls, Lilia and Amalia, for whom I thank God. But it is on behalf of their older sister, who did not live long enough to receive a name, that I accept this award tonight. And I thank God for her as well. Thank you very much.
I first met Deborah Harris a little more than 40 years ago when we were both assistants at what was then known as Viking Penguin. About a year after we met, I was at her goodbye party, enviously wishing her well as she was about to make Aliyah. Over the last 4 decades, I have so admired the determination and intelligence with which Deborah built up her literary agency, mentoring hundreds of Israeli authors, finding translators for their work, and licensing their foreign rights to publishers in countries all over the world. I was delighted whenever one of our Penguin Random House divisions would sign up one of Deborah's authors, and when Schocken became the publisher of Meir Shalev and Yaniv Ichkovitz, I felt that our personal and professional friendship had come spectacularly full circle. Mazal tov, Deborah, dear friend, on this richly deserved honor. It is my great pleasure and privilege to introduce you as the 2021 recipient of the Jewish Book Council's Mentorship Award in honor of Carolyn Storman Hessel.
Oh, I am so moved, Alti. Thank you so much for your words. It brings back such history, and we both know what's gone into it. I'm really touched by this honor. I treasure it all the more because it is in the name of a truly beloved friend and mentor, Carolyn Hessel. This award is the fruit of the labors and the genius of the writers I've been privileged to represent. Without the beauty and depth of their books, without the humanity and wisdom that they have put to the page, all our lives would be the poorer. I owe them the deepest gratitude. I'm going to name a few: David Grossman, Ilana Kershaw, Meir Shalev, Yaniv Itzkovitz, Tom Segev, Mati Friedman, and Nadav Eyal. It is a blessing to get a prize for what brings such great pleasure. And you've given me a new way to think of myself as a mentor. It sounds so much grander than being a literary agent. But tomorrow, actually it's already tomorrow right now here in Jerusalem, I'll be back at my desk finding publishers for my writers and readers for their books. And one of the most valuable and effective partners in this effort is the Jewish Book Council. To all of you, please accept my deepest thanks.
Our final honor tonight goes to the winner of the Everett Family Foundation Book of the Year, Rabbi Lord Jonathan Sachs of blessed memory, for his final work, Morality, Restoring the Common Good in a Divided Time, an inspiring and instructive response to the significant challenges facing our deeply divided world. In this work, Rabbi Sachs traces today's crisis to our loss of a strong moral code and our elevation of self-interest over the common good. Drawing on his personal experiences and the work of philosophers, Jewish and others, he methodically leads us to the conclusion that the renewed commitment to the centrality of morality, a move from the I to the we, can indeed change our world for the better, a timely message. We are proud to honor Rabbi Sachs tonight with both the Book of the Year Award and the Dorot Modern Jewish Thought and Experience Award for a book that adds to his legacy as one of the great thinkers of the 21st century. And now it gives me pleasure to welcome Rabbi Sachs's daughter, Gila Sachs, from London, to accept the award on behalf of her family.
On behalf of my whole family, I want to thank the Jewish Book Council for honoring my late father in this very special way. It means more than we can say to know that he will live on through the ideas he taught, the students and teachers he inspired, and through the many books he left behind. Through celebrating his book Morality, you have helped to keep his ideas alive and open them up to new audiences. My father was always a man of books. I grew up with piles upon piles of books teetering precariously from every possible surface. He would devour a book a day on every topic under the sun. And no matter how pressured his time was, he would carve out time, precious time each year, to write his books. Because he knew that books were the engine of ideas, the ways to get each of us to lift our eyes a little higher, reflect more deeply on our own lives, and give us hope. He wrote because he believed in arguments for the sake of heaven and the dignity of dissent, that his task was not to win an argument, but to help people to learn and think for themselves. He wrote because he believed that each of us has our own chapter to write in the story of our people, our own unique path to discover and share with others. And he wrote because he believed, above all, that books could challenge us to think differently, and so ultimately we can be changed by the books we read. And that is what his book Morality is all about. A call to remember why morality is essential and how it can be relearnt and restored. As he says in its closing page, there is nothing inevitable about division, isolation, the economics of inequality, or the politics of anger. We can change. Societies have moved from I to we in the past. They can do so in the future. And it begins with us.
Wow. Good evening. I'm William Daroff, the Chief Executive Officer of the Conference of Presidents of Major American Jewish Organizations, as well as a proud member of the board of the Jewish Book Council. Again, wow, what an inspiring evening we have all been experiencing. Allow me to share some thanks. Thank you to the authors for writing such incredible works, contributing to the Jewish canon, for their curiosity and commitment to Jewish life and community, and for being with us this evening. These books reflect an incredible range of Jewish thoughts, ideas, and experience. These books provide access points to engage with Jewish life and identity. While we would have loved to be together to celebrate these achievements in person, it is so meaningful to be able to be here together from all over the world and to be together as a truly global Jewish community. And what would an author be without their readers? Thank you to the readers. By being here tonight, we know you know the power of the written word and understand the importance of supporting the continued exchange of ideas and the critical role books play in the Jewish community. Each year, the Jewish Book Council works with over 250 authors, 120 communities, facilitates over 1,300 Jewish literary events, presents over 20 literary awards, reaches 500,000 readers online, reaches over 2,000 book clubs, publishes weekly reviews and essays, and publishes a print literary journal, among other activities. I hope you will consider supporting the important work of the Jewish Book Council by becoming a member so we can continue to provide resources and programs that create deeper connections to Jewish life and identity through the Jewish literary arts. And now, I'd like to raise a glass. For those wondering at home, this is a fine single malt scotch. Authors and readers alike, please join me in a toast. As our President Jane Weitzman so poignantly noted at the start of this enchanted evening, especially in this moment, writing and reading books allows us to remain connected to Jewish ideas and community. They have been a source of such deep comfort to so many of us, for which we are all thankful. So please join me in toasting the fantastic JBC staff, and particularly our spectacular Executive Director, Naomi Firestone Teeter, to the wonderful readers among us, the diligent, underappreciated, and quite well-read judges of the National Jewish Book Awards, and the leadership of the Jewish Book Council. And lastly, to all the authors whose works were entered into the National Jewish Book Awards, to all the finalists, and particularly to the winners, please join me in a hearty L'chaim. L'chaim.